Ah, another beautiful day in Toronto. The sun is shining. It's nigh on 20 degrees centigrade, grade. You can see the shimmering waters of Lake Ontario in the distance. And I just got back from another 12-hour security shift. This is not a joint, by the way. It's tobacco. I got into another fight with an atheist on Twitter. He said I was stupid and ended up, at the end of a lengthy discussion, confirming his initial assessment by calling me an idiot. I didn't argue with him. I told him what I believe. I told him I believe I know nothing and that I'm ignorant. Now, the thing that pissed him off is that I compared Richard Dawkins and Sam Harris to terrorists, to ISIS. I said atheists are like ISIS. They're just as extreme and fanatical and self-righteous and derisive. He's like, you think Sam Harris is like ISIS? Actually, hold on, he said Richard Dawkins because he was English, it turns out. I followed him. He's a smart kid. He's a very smart kid. I followed him. I even sent him a clip of myself playing Nirvana's Lithium, and he wasn't impressed. It's a hard song to play. You know, every Nirvana song is hard to play, more or less. Kurt Cobain was genius of the highest level. He was a genius at the level where your mastery of a subject allows you to, transmulgate, if that's a word, or transform the most abstract and powerful sentiments into the most simple language. In this case, the language of music. You take a song like Polly. It's like 4, 5, 6 chords. Very hard to play though. It's easy to strum. It's easy to sing. But try doing them together. Anyhow, it's like the stomach and patting hand kind of nonsense. So I told brother that he was a smart kid, and I tried to make light, and I was applying Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family sentiment. That if someone is basically giving you a hard time, and in a sense being obnoxious in your mind, continue to be nice with them, and you'll prevail, essentially. You'll eventually win them over. Anyhow, this is why I believe Richard Dawkins is like a terrorist. His position is a fanatical and extreme viewpoint. He simply does not accept that there's any good that comes out of religion or any good that comes out of belief in God. It's all a bunch of mumbo-jumbo in his pseudo-scientific mind or what have you. And that's fine. But don't terrorists say the same thing? We're completely right, everyone else is completely wrong. Saying you're completely wrong is just like saying I'm completely right. That's what I said to him, and he didn't get it. But I hope you get it, viewer. The thing is that belief in God is the source of the ultimate good. Don't you understand? If you believe in God, your ultimate objective is to be like Him. In a sense of sublime morality. In a sense of compassion to the nth degree. Right? In sense of generosity to the nth degree. In the sense of not really giving a hoot about circumstances or people or what have you, but following principle to the end, to death. To death. Is an atheist willing to die for his belief? Should he be willing to die for his belief? I don't know, but my point is that these guys are pretty intense. They're very intelligent for the most part, like savvy atheists, but they get wrapped up in their own intelligence or something. I would venture that most atheists I start butting heads with on Twitter are more intelligent than me. I'll have to say that. And it's a shame I can't kind of pierce that armor of the facade that they put on or what have you. It's not even a facade. They're so intelligent that they don't really need a facade for the most part, right? You need a facade when you're dealing with a situation where you're uncertain of another person's intentions, etc., etc. But intelligent people usually can read the other person through and through, and they don't really have to. They don't really have to go out of their way to put on a front, for the most part. In any case, that was really the gist of what I'm trying to say. So I'll explain it to you once again, in a simple and exemplary fashion. Let's suppose I'm an atheist and I'm sitting next to a terrorist. If these two guys were to have a conversation, what would it be like? Okay. The conversation might be like this. Atheist says, "Hello, how are you?" A terrorist is on his way to blow something up. He's like, in a gruff voice, "Ugh." And that's it, I guess, right? Intelligent guys like, what a bore. I'm not going to, like, there's nothing to be gained from interacting with this guy. And the terrorist, like, to him, like everyone else, is subhuman. The atheist is obviously non-Muslim or something, and even though he said hello, the Quran says when someone greets you, you should greet them back. You have to greet them back, and in fact, you should greet them back in a better way. So if someone says Assalamu alaikum to you, you're obliged to say Wa alaikum assalam to the person back. Obliged in the sense that not only do you lose God points if you don't, it's actually a sin. Potentially you could go to hell if you don't say hello back to people, potentially. Essentially that's what it boils down to. Now, you're not obligated to say hello, but the person who commences the greeting gets 70 times, rather, there's 70 rewards for the exchange of greetings, 70 God points. The person who initiates gets 69 of those God points, and the person who replies gets 1, although his reply is compulsory. The reason the initiator gets 69 obviously is because he initiated and he didn't have to. But once you've greeted someone, the other person, the onus is on the other person to say wa alaikum assalam back. So the terrorist, if he really was a Muslim, regardless of the fact that he considers the person next to him less inferior or more inferior than an animal, he still should say hello back to the person and say hello back to him nicely. And I guess we both know a terrorist isn't going to do that, right? So I think the conversation would abruptly end. But my point is this. An atheist simply will not accept anything other than their own position. It's locked airtight. It's like, you talk about God, it's like it's all rubbish. I don't want to hear about it. There's no blah, 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 blah. Although, here's what the thing is, my dear atheists of the world, and anyone who's interested in these things, which are these kinds of discussions. So, you know, Richard Dawkins himself says it. He says we don't know and we may never know. I think if you asked him, he would say tacitly, yes, there may be a God. However, that God has not been proved to me yet, frankly. Because they're looking for some kind of fact-based evidence, and the whole thing of a logical premise for something just slips right past them, right? What's the proof of love? Is there such a thing called love? I venture there's no such thing. Let me just say I'm a skeptic, and I say there's no such thing as love. Prove it to me. You'll say, well, it's this or that. I'll say those feelings, they're just hormones, they're chemicals, it's all nonsense, blah, 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 this and that. And how many people do you know where, you know, love has prevailed and conquered all, and people are happily in love, and all. It's all nonsense. It's just an illusion. Love is the biggest illusion, in fact, is my position. In the same way, Richard Dawkins says, you're wrong. Well, not Richard Dawkins, let's say the atheist. The average atheist will say, you're wrong. There's no God. It's not scientific and all this rubbish. I've talked about it before, how science is simply cause and effect. I got into an argument over that statement. I thought I was onto something great. I was like, science is cause and effect. Ergo, there has to be an uncaused cause. How is that? Well, everything is caused by a preceding cause, and all causes link up to an initial, original cause. What caused that? And then what caused that? There had to be something that was an uncaused cause. The I am, right? The Alpha and the Omega, right? The before and after, right? The living and the ever-living and the self-subsisting is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala azza wa jal. When you look at the universe and the amazing, wondrous, miraculous wisdom and intelligence and perfection which exhibits an infinite amount of wisdom and intelligence which prevails in the universe, all of that, it couldn't have just come about by itself. It's not logical to say that infinite wisdom came into existence from non-existence. And I guess I'll leave it at that. So, enjoy the day, make the most of it. Remember that life is short. And at the end of the day, you know what? This is the message of Islam, at least. Amanu wa amilu salihat. So there's a beautiful chapter. It's very short. The Quran starts with the biggest chapters, apart from the first opening chapter, which is only 7 verses long. It's called the opening, or Alhamd, or let's say praise. Alhamdulillah. All praise is Allah's. Everything comes from that original source, right? And everything is caused by that original source. Not only that, you have the 3 questions of where did everything come from, how is it this amazing, and how is it being maintained? It's not only intelligent design. Intelligent design is only the question B. Why is everything so amazing? How is it so ordered? Right? You might start splitting hairs if you're Richard Dawkins, saying, well, it's not designed, because when you say something is designed, you're implying that, although it's not explicit, but what you're saying is that there is a designer, and that obviously is not going to hold water with an atheist. However, would you say, or would you not say, that that bird flying around, or these buildings, or the roads, or everything, or anything is ordered? There's some order, there's some structure. How can you belie the fact that there's some structure? If there's structure, that structure in itself leads to the fact that there is a design. Something put this structure in place, right? The blueprint for the structure had to exist prior to things coming about. And finally, what maintains everything? Right? If I'm holding something in my hand and I fall asleep, the thing will just fall out my hand and smash. And you look at this universe and this amazing, intricate system. You've got 200 billion stars in each galaxy. And there's 200 billion galaxies. And everything is moving. Stars are moving. The sun is moving. وَالشَّمْسُ تَجْرِي لِمُسْتَقَرٍ لَهَا, says the Quran. The sun is moving towards its appointed position. Apparently there's some part of the solar system or something out there, and scientists apparently have calculated that the sun is arching or arcing in a trajectory towards some point. Something like that. Anyhow, the Quran says something of the sort 1400 years ago. Sun's moving, planets are moving, orbiting moons and satellites, they're all moving. Can you believe it, my dear viewer? Can you believe it? If I were to say to you that galaxies are moving and they move through each other, would you believe that? A galaxy with 200 billion stars, each with countless planets and objects and asteroids and all this debris, they pass within each other. The only things that crash around are obviously asteroids and whatnot, and the rest of it is just amazingly perfect, balanced. You talk about clock. A clock doesn't hold a candle to what's going on. Anyhow, there you go. That's my speech. I rambled on a bit at the end there just to reach the 15-minute mark. My beautiful wife is inside praying, and it's time for me to join her. So greetings, farewell, and visit Toronto, yo. We got the Raptors, yo. We got Drake, yo. We got John Tory, yo. And we got myself, the Zaidi boy. Take care. And don't stare at the sun too long, little child of God or man.